everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast. We are so glad that you've joined us, whether you're watching this online or you are just listening to it on the go. As usual, this podcast is about the behind-the-scenes stuff that's happening at Timberlake, giving you a chance to know what's coming up, and also giving us a chance to highlight some individuals. In the studio with me today, I've got Levi Black on my right, and I have our special guest today, Mr. Bill Wolf, on my left, and we are so glad to be with you. Before we get started, we have a sponsor of the week. I understand last week were you in the podcast last week?
I was not.
You were not.
No, I was not.
They did Celsius drinks, energy drink, because it was daylight savings time. Does anybody have a strong opinion about daylight saving time? Are we for it, against it? Could we get rid of it?
I think I've been beaten into submission with it. Like I've just accepted it.
It's just going to be a part of it.
I think this year hit me the most out of any other one before, but I understand the reasoning behind it. So I'm not like so mad that like we need to just get rid of it, but it's just unfortunate.
So when you came in this morning, I was listening to a video, right, when I was doing the chairs.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to a video of them talking about the history of daylight saving time. And it was about, like, originally it was a wartime thing, and then it was apparently like a golfers union, like, wanted more time on the course because they made more money. Sure. And then there was like some candy thing about Halloween being like more daylight time for that. I don't know if any of that's true or not, but
that's fantastic. You know far more than I know.
Anyway, the sponsor week this week is going to be, and this is not a paid sponsorship, Mexican restaurant chips. I have a story about these.
Okay.
Help yourself. I went to get queso and chips for a snack for my wife, and I just said I'd like a large queso and chips to go, right? Mm-hmm. And they give me this giant bag filled with chips.
It's large.
And I just thought, in a small rural town, I don't know how it is for you guys, but for us in a small rural town, Mexican restaurant's pretty much a staple. Yeah. So maybe we can get sponsored by one of those restaurants and they'll give us chips. Yeah. But until then, we've got a giant bag of chips. Chips and salsa, there you go.
We have 4 to choose from here.
The sponsor,
wow,
in a small town, 4 restaurants. We'll talk about that if you'd like later. We're going to get to a recap of last Sunday. This past Sunday, we're in our third week of Simply Jesus. Before I talk about that, Levi, how was your Sunday?
My Sunday was good. Yeah, we had Bethany Applegarth was teaching Sunday school this week.
Cool.
And she did a really good job. We're actually doing a study through the Psalms right now.
Okay.
And so,
did it tie up perfectly with the sermon? Because sometimes that happens.
Sometimes it does. And actually, I'll get to that later with the small group.
Ooh, a little teaser for everybody.
But we were going through, I can't remember which psalm it was. There's so many. But it was really, really good. The way that we've been doing is dividing up into small groups, and it was good.
That's awesome. Bill, how was your Sunday? What'd you do?
Sunday was great. Yeah, I of course was at a new church I hadn't been to before. So we were in Atlanta, and at Momentum Christian Church in Atlanta.
Okay.
It's a church that's about, I think they're 15 to 20 years old. So, but got 2 locations, and we were one location Sunday morning, another location Sunday night. But it was a blast. It was a blast getting to be with new people. Yeah.
Do you like visiting new churches?
I do.
Because you get to different perspective.
Absolutely.
See, okay, we're all pretty much the same, and here's where we're different. And
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And I love, getting to be with different congregations, and you always get, sweet old ladies that come up and they want to talk, and they, and it's just fantastic. So yeah, it was a great Sunday.
I love old ladies. Yeah. This week we talked about Jesus as the Messiah and what that means for us. And you can have all the evidence in the world, but what truly matters is Jesus asking the question, who do you say that I am? And if you missed any of that sermon or that Sunday, you can go to tlcc.church, or you can watch it on Facebook or on YouTube, and you can get caught up. We hope you had a great Sunday and that you've recovered from daylight saving time. Apparently there's no plurals in that. daylight saving time. It's
Really?
not daylight savings time.
Oh wow!
I always
I
said
did
it
it with the S.
I've been doing it wrong all this time.
According to this video I watched on Facebook, apparently
Well,
that's what
I'm
it
sure
is.
that's right.
It's got to be right.
Yeah.
All right, we want to get to the TLCC top 3, and today I have it's kind of special because it's only a TLCC top 2. We don't really have much happening or going on. That's not true. We just have already talked about everything that's happening. Easter's coming up, and so what you need to know about that is tonight we are going to have a special concert by Mr. Bill Wolf and his group, and we're very excited about that. If you come a little early, we've got snacks and different treats, and there's going to be healthy snacks too for some people who want healthy snacks. I am not one of those people. The more gluten and sugar, the better. But that'll happen around 6:30, and then we're going to start at 7.
Sure.
Is that what you were told?
You know what? Whenever you tell me to go
I
up
think
there,
that's what
I'm
we're
going
going to do.
step up and do it.
So we're going to have some time of just mingling and fellowship and sharing, and then they're going to bring a credible night, preparing us for a celebration of Jesus' resurrection in this season that we're in. You're going to tell us a little bit more about that here in a moment. Then we've got a Good Friday service, which is coming up on Good Friday at 7, and then everything that's happening during the Easter weekend. If you are like, I want to make sure I know what's happening, go to tlcc.church and you can see the schedule. Everything's there, and you'll be ready to go. The second thing that we need to let you know about is not right away, but Wednesday nights will go on break eventually, which it'll be April 3rd is we're going to have a Wednesday night break happening on April 3rd. So for you parents, if you're part of the activities or participating in youth groups or you have a Bible study that you're part of or a small group that night, they're taking a break on April 3rd, and we wanted you to be aware of that. And that's it.
Wow.
I know.
I mean, it sounds like a lot.
Well, yeah, but like, you fill up time of announcements and it's like, okay, no more announcements. Yeah. So that's all you need to know coming up. If you have any questions or you feel like Daniel is missing something, you're probably right. And go to tlcc.church, or you can go to the Facebook page where you'll see all the announcements. Okay, Bill, I want to get to you. And this is something I like to do with all of our guests because people don't know you.
Okay.
60 seconds.
Okay.
Nobody knows you.
Yep.
What do they need to know about you? Who you are?
Wow. Okay.
Your life. What is the most? And I'll time it.
Sure.
Just to put some extra pressure on.
Yeah. No.
And then what do you want? What would people need to know about you?
About me, just me.
I don't know. If I say
Not the show.
Who is
Just
Bill?
me.
Oh yeah, we'll get to the show.
Sure. Okay.
You can mention it, but
Yeah.
we'll get to the show.
Okay.
All right. 60 seconds. Ready, set, go.
Okay, so I am a father of 2. So I have a 15-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter. I've been married to my wife for 20 plus years, not 21 yet, but in between 20 and 21 years. I am a professor at Johnson University. I enjoy songwriting, which is obviously part of why I'm here tonight. I enjoy running long distances.
Ooh,
especially
you're a runner.
especially out in the woods. Like I can run on asphalt too, but like
Trail
give me a
runner.
give me a trail out in the woods in
Okay.
a couple hours, and I'm happy as can be.
All right.
So yeah, I'm connected to this church through Walt Harper. So I met him last year in the Holy Land. As part of my job being a professor, I get to lead a trip to the Holy Land every once in a while. So what I teach at Johnson is theology and worship. So both areas of huge interest to me. Both areas I think that are extremely important for us as
7
Christians.
seconds.
So that is what you need to know about Bill Wolf in only 60 seconds.
Boom. 59.96. You nailed it.
You can't tell me anybody's done better than that.
No, not absolutely not. When I had my dad on 2 weeks ago, and he would have gone for like an hour. I think he would have talked
It's
about
hard.
himself.
It's actually hard.
Yeah, because then you go back and think, well, did I mention? What did I forget to mention? Is that not important to me? Okay, so you're a professor at Johnson. How long have you been there?
So I've been at Johnson. This is my 13th year at Johnson.
Wow.
You
a graduate of Johnson?
I did my undergrad at Johnson. Yep.
Okay.
And so I first came on staff there as dean of the chapel. So I oversaw our chapel services.
That's how it always starts. It starts with a little job, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're in Israel leading.
Well,
trips.
and so within a few years, I kind of finished some degrees, and I start a little bit of teaching. And like the reason the job didn't exist before me, like it was created because they're like, hey, we actually require all of our students 3 days a week to be in chapel, and we have nobody who like oversees it officially as their job.
Yeah, probably should.
So we should have that person. And so I got hired into that position. And I'm guessing there's probably something.
No, we don't need to talk about it. We keep going.
Keep on trucking. So within a couple of years, I started teaching a couple classes here and there. My last year, I was teaching a full-time load in the fall, and I was a course away from a full-time load in the spring. Mm-hmm. So we were basically back to where we were when I started.
Right.
And so we had to make the decision of, basically I had, the president said, which direction do you want to go? And right. I love being in the classroom with students, so it was a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. So I stepped into full-time faculty 2 years ago.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
So tell us why you're here tonight. We know you're putting on a show. Mm-hmm. What is the show? Are you going to be dancing? Are we, is there acrobatics involved? Any pyrotechnics? What's the purpose of this?
Yeah. So we discussed pyrotechnics. Oh, okay. So we've driven by a few fireworks stores.
It is Missouri.
All claiming to be the world's largest.
Yeah, you can buy it. Yeah.
But we opted not to. Just safety. Safety first. Right. Mm-hmm. So there may be dancing. We just leave that up to the spirit. Oh, yeah. So that's not ever prepared.
Absolutely.
But no. So tonight it is. You will see a lot of instruments played, and primarily by one of our guys. He's got a whole slew of things that he's very, very good at. But the show Easter Stories and Songs, I was telling Levi earlier, kind of explaining, there's kind of three parts to it now. There's kind of just the very opening, which is a couple songs that just kind of get us into the spirit of things, and then I actually step aside. And we've got a group that is mostly students that they travel with us, and they play with the kind of Easter Stories and Songs main set. Mm-hmm. But they do by themselves 5 songs that tell the Exodus story of crossing the Red Sea. Mm-hmm. And which, of course, that's Israel's great moment of redemption, right? That's what they're told repeatedly through the Old Testament. Look back on, remember. And so we tell that story through songs, and there's some videos that tie the songs together. And then they step aside, we step up, and we do kind of the Easter Stories and Songs proper, which is 10 songs. And the songs are kind of woven together with stories, and we step into the last couple days of Jesus' life, from Last Supper through resurrection, and look at different events through the eyes of the disciples, through the eyes of Mary, through the eyes of even God, as much as that's possible, right? And just try to hear this old story in a new way. And what actually I was telling Levi, we just added the Exodus portion a few years ago, and it blew me away when we did it. Just the ways in which the themes foreshadow, that greater redemption that is to come, that redemption that is for all people. So it's that's the show, and it's something that is a blessing to me to get to do. Simply because the story of the resurrection is something that is always new. Like you would think, I'm going to tell this story. It's the same story. It's the same songs. I'm going to tell it. And then year after year, it's just going to get like kind of dull.
Mundane,
right?
Yeah.
But the reality is every year when we get ready to do this again, the world's changed. I've changed. Different things have happened in my life. And I think that's the way the gospel works. It's like a snowball rolling downhill, like it picks up weight each rotation. And so I get choked up at parts that I don't see coming. Even as I'm reading the words, I'm hearing them again, and it means something. So it's a blessing to get to share. And then it's a blessing, as we were talking about earlier, just getting to go into new congregations and going, hey, guess what? We might look a little different. We might have a little different accent. We certainly don't know each other yet. But like the one thing that draws us all together, the one thing that unites us is the death and resurrection of Jesus being the central aspect of our life. And that's all that we're going to celebrate tonight. And that's just fun. So
what do you hope people walk away with? Like, what's the goal if there is a goal, what do you hope they walk away with?
Yeah. I hope that whether it's the first time they've heard this story or whether it's the 100th time they've heard this story, that there is an experience of it that is fresh. That the Spirit is kind of breathing through, and kind of bleeding through the lines of the songs and speaking something fresh, and that actually as we leave, it's not just like, hey, we celebrated it, whew, that was great, and we go home, but actually we're changed by it. And it's exactly what you just said about what you all were talking about last Sunday. Like, sure, the facts, the information of it all, that stuff doesn't change. but we are to be changed by it, and that's really what matters. Like, who do you say I am? And so I hope.
Maybe you should go listen to this sermon. Maybe that was maybe you'd appreciate it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think I ought to do that. So.
I want to shift gears just a little bit, just to get to know you a little bit better and your perspective, and because I like to put people on the spot. What's the difference between singing? Because we know singing has value.
Yep.
Is there a difference between singing and praise music and participating in a song service and worship? This is really a story told through song. Do you have in your mind, are those two different? Are they entwined? When we think about worshiping God, I did, when you go listen to my sermon, I did say that, true worship is obedience to God. So how do we, I guess I kind of struggle sometimes with Sunday services or special service where I'm like, is this us singing or are we actually worshiping? And are those two things different? Yeah. What do you think? Yeah, just give us the answer here, Bill. Would you just give us the answer?
And you're asking somebody who gets paid to talk for 2.5 hours a week about this sort of stuff.
I thought you'd be the guy.
So how long is this podcast?
Well, we're expanding it.
Yeah. No. So first I'll answer the question because I heard a question in there about like tonight. Sure. A little bit of what we do tonight. Yeah. So there is a difference between congregational song. The songs that are led on Sunday morning or whenever you're gathering that are designed for people to participate in and for us to do this thing together. And what we do tonight. What we do tonight is presentational. So obviously, just like if you go to a concert, you can sing along, but the point of this is for people to receive it.
And experience it.
More than participate in the sense of standing up and joining in the songs. So first of all, yes, there is and I strongly believe there's a place for presenting art in the church. Experience this art, and whether it's song or whether it's visual or whatever it might be. I actually think. Sorry, I don't want to get off on a tangent here, but I actually think
I'll follow you.
There's been this like tidal wave over the last 20 years of worship music.
There is
that has washed away a lot of what existed before 20 years ago in terms of artists who were writing songs that were Christian and they were gospel and they were all these things that were edifying and fed the souls. But it's been washed away because what sells is worship music. So that's another tangent, another soapbox.
Well, when we talk about the CCL, and we can talk about contemporary Christian music, and we can talk about how overwhelming it can feel sometimes and how cookie cutter many of them have become, and we're looking for a sound, and the difference between that and art versus almost consumerism versus art, which I was going to say, like, what is the value of art for Christians? I was going to ask you what you think the value of art is for Christians.
I mean, I think I would even take a step broader than that and say what's the value of art for humans. And I think it's how we're designed. Like, we're not brains on sticks, right?
This philosophy coming out.
I love it. But we are emotional beings, and we are beings who experience the world through our five senses. And so art to me is that which, we are experiencing through, we taste it, it could be food. We see it, we hear it, it enters into us through.
We smell it.
We smell it. That's right. Yeah, and that's my favorite. Yeah,
the smell the art
artists are they're few and far between. But no,
I don't think that's what he meant.
Is that not? Okay.
So to me, it's a way of engaging the world, and then for us as Christians, it's a way of engaging with God. I mean, I think when we shut ourselves off from that, I just wonder if God's going like, yeah, I can reach you through just your brain alone. Like, yeah, that's fine. But like, life could be so much richer. Our relationship could be so much richer if you were generous enough in receiving what I am generously pouring out all the time for you. And I think art awakens us to those possibilities.
Why? Now we're really going down.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, I love it. Why do you think traditionally, and I say traditionally in my context, as part of like the Restoration movement and kind of where we are, we I don't know if settling's the right word. We value knowledge and the intellectual interaction with God and His Word, and we sometimes can devalue that experiential interaction with God.
Man,
throw another one at us,
man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have the 30-second answer for us that we can just say this is the answer?
I mean, I think, my answer is not meant to devalue kind of the cognitive experience of life. Like I do think, I think the reason is because this is where it gets big and maybe time consuming trying to chase it down. But we're post Enlightenment, we're post rational, worldview. I think the human person went through a transformation 500 years ago. And we, you could use words like postmodern and all of those things, but post literally means on this side of, so we're still affected by that. It's not like you move and you close the book and you move on. Like that's the air that we've been breathing since we were born. Right. And so, when we know things are true because we can mentally go, okay, well, I saw it, I touched it, I observed it, I had an hypothesis that I tested, and I can observe that it is true,
repeatable.
So, yeah, exactly. And so I can, I am sure that is true now. And so we just live in a world that truth is provable and observable truth. So anyway, so I think that, that's good. That's like scratching the surface, and maybe even scratching in a way that doesn't make sense, but yeah, it's kind of.
That's good.
I can answer your question about the worship thing very, very briefly, because I do want to just say, if you said that worship is obedience first and foremost, you're 100% correct.
Well, I know I'm right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. But that literally is it. It is like, even to go back to the Exodus, crossing the Red Sea, God said to Moses, and Moses said to Pharaoh, let my people go. And I grew up thinking there was a period there, let my people go, period. But it's not, it's a comma, let my people go. And every single time they say it, whether it's God or whether it's Moses or whether it's Pharaoh saying, I let them go, every time it's a comma, so that they may worship in the desert or in the wilderness.
Yeah, so that we can go worship God the way we've been called to.
And so, and that word worship there in Hebrew goes back to Genesis 2, and it is the same word that Adam is placed in the garden, avad, to avad in the garden, which is to obey God and to live out that obedience in a way that brings God's dream into like tangible reality in the garden. And so Israel's not going out to the desert to sing songs. They might sing songs, they might praise. That's obviously beautiful. It's wonderful. But they're going out into the world now. God has freed them, not just so that they be free, but freed them to be a type of people who will obey him and serve him in a way that brings his dream into tangible reality in the world around them.
It's beautiful.
So you're right.
It's beautiful. And I do think that there's such, you've already talked about, such value in collective singing and praising God together. But that is like a piece of, we can't just say that is worship. That's just a part of it.
Yeah.
We need some rapid fire questions before we bring, Levi brings the blessing of the week.
Okay.
And I hope to get some good dirt here. What do we need to know about Walt Harper that we might not know? That's the real question of the day.
Yeah, I'm
my
really
goodness.
interested in this one.
Yeah. I don't know. You guys might know him better than I do. You might have been around him much more than I have.
But give us something. Even if you have to make something up, I'm fine with it.
Walt, if he falls asleep whether on a bus or whether any place where somebody else is around, he greatly appreciates photos being taken of him.
Yeah.
So if ever that opportunity arises,
take advantage of that.
And he might, he's a humble guy. He might say, no, don't do that. But like inside, we all know, like he
really appreciates
loves it.
it.
So please do that, and if you can share it with others,
please send it to me.
Yes, sure,
directly.
Yeah. However, it can be dispersed.
That's awesome. Well, we hope that you come tonight. We're really excited about this and the opportunity to experience the stories and songs of Easter that draw our hearts and minds towards the hope that we have in Christ Jesus. And if you have more questions for Bill and his group, they are going to be around, and after the service as well, they'll be here. They also have some merchandise that'll be available for purchase. I didn't get to see the whole table, but is it CDs? What is it?
Yeah, so I appreciate you asking that. The primary thing there is the books.
Gotta throw it out.
So what I'll be reading from tonight is something that I wrote to go along with the songs, and so those books are available, and often people do want to take those home.
Is that something that people can use year after year as like part of their family tradition to go through? And
really each one is written to kind of be a devotional thought in and of itself. So so those are there, and then there is a sign up because it is being mastered right now, the new album. So when I first wrote this back in 2010, it was really kind of funny. The guys that I was playing with at that time, we got together in 2 nights at church, got some guys to come in and bring recording equipment, and I would like teach them the song. We got it. All right, hit record. Let's go. And so for since 2010, I've had this.
That's what you had.
That's what I've had. And honestly, for what it is, I think it still stands up. But I've also known the songs have matured, and I really would love to capture it. So that is done. It's getting mastered right now. So there will be a sign up for that, and then I'm going to email people and say, here's where you can go to pre-save it if you want to listen to it on Spotify or whatever. So it won't cost anybody anything more than what you pay for Spotify or Apple Music. But yeah, it'll be available everywhere soon. Awesome. Hopefully by the end of the month. So
that's great.
Very cool.
Well, we're really excited about that. All right, Levi, you've got the blessing of the week. You've been really talkative, and I know that I really have talked way too much. So
I really feel like we should just end it after talking about worship, and I just feel like that would. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you gotta do it, Levi.
All right. So actually, this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, our small group time. So I do a small group with Josh Bettison with the high school guys on Sunday afternoons. Yep. And it lined up pretty well. So we're going through a study right now. It's a book called Can I Ask That? It's by the Fuller Youth Institute. And really all it does is it handles very difficult questions that you're going to face at some point, whether you are still in high school or after you leave high school. And so it's a biblical walkthrough of very difficult questions to a lot of answers. But so what we went to this week, or went through this week, was the question: is Jesus really the only way to God? And so it lined up really, really well with, going through the whole series of just simply Jesus, but looking at Jesus through different perspectives and through different lights, different lenses. It lined up really, really well. And part of the study, we went through different religions. So it talked about Islam, Buddhism, Mormonism, and several other religions too, and what their view of Jesus is. And most of them, not all of them, but most of them at least believe that Jesus was this guy, and that he existed, but he didn't really, he may have been a prophet to some religions, or he may have done some things, but he wasn't God, and he was just a man. He died. There was nothing more. And so kind of walking through that study of, I thought it was really cool looking at different religions. But what I think is really important for us is knowing that Jesus is the only way to God, but that we know Jesus in a different way. We know Jesus in a very different way from everybody else as Christians. So like what you were talking about on Sunday, go watch the sermon.
3-4 times.
Yeah. You're talking about on Sunday of we know Jesus as the Messiah, and Jesus is our Savior. And so that's how we know Jesus now, is Jesus has saved us from our sin. He has done the work for us. And I think that is what is very important for us as Christians, is we know Jesus in a different way, but that is what gives us meaning. Jesus was the one who gave us our mission. And it's really important for us to remember that without Jesus, there's not really that much else to do. Without Jesus coming, dying, and being resurrected, and the mission that he gave the church, us as Gentiles, we're not Jewish, we wouldn't really have anything now. And so I guess my blessing of the week would just be experience Jesus and the mission that he's given, but know that because of what Jesus has done, we have a more special purpose, and we have something that pushes us forward every day in life now, and our lives look different because of it.
Amen. Yeah. That's it for the week. I hope that you join us tonight for the stories. Is it songs and stories, or stories and songs?
Easter stories and songs.
Yep. Easter stories and songs. And we hope that you appreciate that and enjoy that. Bill, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
This was totally on the spot. I just put them on, but I'm so glad that you jumped in.
Absolutely.
Levi, thank you very much. And we hope to see you all here next week on the Ripple Effect Podcast. See you guys. Hold the freeze frame. No, I'm just kidding. I'll just...